list person, and every year I like to make top 10 lists. Top 10 lists of games I want to play, top 10 lists of games I have played. Well, I just finished a new top 10 list. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my top 10 solo RPGs that I want to play in 2025. A few years ago, I released a video with my top 10 solo RPGs I want to play. This is an updated version of the list, and since I had made that video, I have played more solo RPGs. I have researched more solo RPGs, and I think this video is a little bit cleaner and a little bit closer to what I'm looking for and what I like in solo RPGs. So before I get into the video, I want to give you a short disclaimer. First of all, a few of the RPGs on this list I have actually already played, but just a little bit, and I want to dive into them more to explore them a little bit more. So you may see a few RPGs on this list that I have talked about previously. Secondly, I am not a huge fan of journaling RPGs, so you're not going to find many of them on this video. However, there is one or two caveats which I'll talk about when I get there. So let's get started. Here are the top 10 solo RPGs that I want to play in 2025. Number 10 is Scraps by Cesar Capacle. I don't know if that's how you say your name, Caesar, so I apologize. I do need to use notes also because I don't know a lot about these games, just enough to get me interested. So I previously made a video about my Grail game. My Grail game is an exploration-focused RPG that de-emphasizes content and uses handcrafted design to give the player an experience of discovery, not procedural generation. I'm always looking for new exploration-focused solo RPGs to try and find this Grail game, and Scraps has done enough to catch my interest. I don't think Scraps is going to be my Grail game, but it looks pretty fun. So Scraps is a crafting game, and I'm not quite sure what that means in a solo RPG, but I'm going to find out. It's a crafting game where you look to rebuild among the ruins of an ancient civilization. The designer, Caesar, says that it is inspired by games like Ironsworn and Tetris. And quite frankly, it just looks fun. So I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this or not, but there was enough here that I haven't experienced before that I said, hey, this actually looks pretty interesting, and it made number 10 on my list. Number 9 is Notorious by Always Checkers Publishing. So Notorious is a game where you play the role of a bounty hunter, you take on jobs and then try to complete them while navigating faction relationships, rivals, and debts. And of course, all of this happens in space. Think bounty hunters in Star Wars, Han Solo, that type of thing. Not only does this sound like a game I like to play, also a game I like to design. So this one caught my attention for two reasons. First of all, besides the awesome theme, of course. First of all, it has two different modes of play. One of them is more of a story mode for people who like to journal, and one of them is more, it's called action focused for people who don't like journaling as much. And the fact that the designer was looking at the gameplay through two different lenses, I think helps me, because a lot of indie RPGs that I find lean heavily on journaling as the mechanism of gameplay. And I've talked in previous videos about that's not my favorite mechanism for gameplay. So I'm always double checking to see, okay, is this a journaling game or is this something else? And it sounds like this game, there's a way to play that doesn't rely heavily upon journaling. So that's one reason why it caught my attention. Another reason is it has one-shot version or a series, like an anthology version. So the game is set up and designed specifically to be played as a one-shot or a series of adventures, kind of like an episodic TV show. So that also appeals to me because, as you'll find out later, one of my main restrictions when I play solo RPGs is time. I don't have time to do a bunch of epic stories. I wish I did. I don't. And so having an RPG that I can do in a one-shot and then decide later to expand that one-shot is perfect fit for me. So that is Notorious by Always Checkers Publishing. Number 8 is Lathan's Gold by Merle M. Rasmussen. This is an old school Dungeons & Dragons solo RPG. Now, I am currently playing the Ghost of Lion Castle, an old school Dungeons & Dragons solo RPG that is basically a roguelike. And Lathan's Gold, from the reviews I have read, takes this idea and expands on it. It does a few things. Number 1, it allows you to play different classes of characters. I think previous solo modules only allow you to play one type of character. This expands that and even allows you to hire hirelings for the adventure. Number 2, though, is it is built on processes rather than choose your own adventure style gameplay. And so, of course, you're going to decide what to do. There's going to be different entries based on the location. However, When you get to a location, it will have different processes on how to interact with that location rather than a simple choice at the bottom of the entry. At least that's what the reviews I've read say, which makes me want to play this quite a bit because The Ghost of Lion Castle, as fun as it has been, is very much a choose your own adventure game. And something with a little bit more meat on it would be very fun to play. So that is Lathan's Gold, an old school Dungeons & Dragons module. Number 7 is Glide by Sasquatch Games. So similar to Scraps, Glide hit my list when I was searching for solo exploration RPGs. That's what this game seems like. It's a solo exploration RPG with the de-emphasis on combat. It specifically mentions that in kind of the rules overview on its itch.io page, and that is why it is number 7 on my list. It seems also that it's heavily influenced on the Dune series because it takes place on a desert planet. I think it was Eriador. And it speaks directly to the old houses that have left stuff on the planet. It looks like you play the role of a seeker, which is a part of a nomadic troop, and you just explore the wilderness on this desert planet looking for scraps that these old houses have left around that you can then use to help rebuild the planet. Is this going to be my Grail game? I don't know, but the theme is really exciting to me. I love Dune, and the fact that you can go explore and try and rebuild the planet just seems fun, so I'm excited to try Glide by Sasquatch Games. Number 6 is Starforged by Sean Tompkin. So I played Ironsworn 2 years ago, I think, and it was a pretty short adventure that I did. It was about 2 or 3 sessions, and I really liked it. That was the perfect length for that type of game, and I can still continue that someday. There was enough left on the story, but it had a strong beginning, middle, and end, and I enjoyed it. Starforged is all of Ironsworn, but in space. And this is really exciting to me for 2 reasons. Number 1, I think that the Oath system in Starforged and Ironsworn is really strong for solo play because it takes the mechanics of story and plot, or it takes the idea of story and plot and builds mechanics around it, which I think is wonderful for a solo game. Anytime that you can add mechanics to driving story forward, it makes for a really fun game, in my opinion. The second reason I am looking forward to playing Starforged is because I really think that the Oracle tables, which are kind of the strength of Starforged and Ironsworn, are perfect for a space opera style game where you are maybe on a ship like maybe Star Trek, like the Enterprise or something similar, and you're just out in space exploring new stuff and use the Oracle tables to figure out what it is that you are exploring. So I'm excited to hopefully try this in 2025. Starforged by Sean Tompkin. Number 5, and here we get into the heavy hitters. Number 5 is Dolmenwood by Necrotic Games. It is incredible how detailed this game and system looks. So there's a few books that come with it, and it just outlines like a European style medieval world, but it's heavily influenced by like fairy tales. And think like Grimm fairy tales more than Disney fairy tales. The amount of detail that looks like has been poured into Dolmenwood is insane. Like, it's mind-boggling, and it's all out there, a brand new world to explore. And that's what excites me most about Dolmenwood, is that I could get a character and just start exploring the world. That seems so fun. It's insane how much detail is put into this setting, which is also a system, I think, built on old school essentials. So very cool, very handcrafted, which is really one of my favorite things when we have fully handcrafted content and it doesn't rely too much on procedural generation. And so I'm really excited to explore Dolmenwood. One of the only reasons why this is my number 5 and not my number 1 is because this will be an epic campaign for me to explore. I want to sit down and spend 10, 15, 20 sessions exploring the world of Dolmenwood, but I can't do that right now because I'm playing Pendragon right now. I'm doing that with Pendragon. I can't have 2 epic campaigns going on at the same time. So that's why it's my number 5. The only other reason why it didn't get moved up on my list is because from what I can read, I don't think there's a solo version or a way to play solo that's like supported or included in the design. If I'm wrong on that, please let me know in the comments below, because that will shoot it to the top of my list if there is a easy and design-backed way to play solo for Dolmenwood. Moving on to number 4, this is an indie title called Wreck This Deck by Becky Annison. Wow, I was looking for games and this one kind of pulled up. The name was different than most other solo RPGs. It kind of describes what you do in the game rather than the setting. And so I looked it up and it seems really cool. Basically, you have a deck of cards, you follow a series of prompts, you almost do like fortune telling reading, and the result of these builds a story, as well as, you know, modify your deck in certain ways by like coloring it, putting names on it, cutting up cards, destroying cards, things like that. The deck and a journal are used to drive gameplay forward. The deck gets modified over the time, so the types of stories you tell get modified, and then of course the stories occur in the journal. This of course is a journaling game, but it was so different than most other things that I play that I decided, and it was going to be on my list, and it's number 4 because I'm super excited about it. 2 reasons why I'm super excited. Number 1, the idea of destroying and modifying a deck of cards. Super fun sounding. Deck of cards are very cheap at the thrift store. I was just looking, like 4 of them for $2, all of them used with some history, which is kind of fun. And secondly, it's an urban fantasy game. Like there's a lot of leeway that I have with urban fantasy. It's one of my favorite themes, and I don't get to play that much in this theme. So I'm definitely excited to try this out. It also connects very closely with that game I play tested with a few folks 2 years ago, and that game is not anywhere near finished, but I'm excited to see how Becky Annison runs and designed this game for that setting, because I will probably be able to learn from this game and apply some of what I've learned to the game that I'm designing. So that's Wreck This Deck by Becky Annison. One other thing I wanted to mention about this, there is an interesting 9-minute documentary called Jerry's Map. You should look it up. I'll include the link in the description below. And it is about a guy who over the last like 30 years or 40 years, or I don't know when the documentary came out, but for quite a long time, for decades, has been building a map as like a solo game he's been playing called Ukrainia. It's like a town in a region with like farm fields around it. And he uses a deck of cards that has become heavily modified over time to help drive what he draws on the map and what's happening to the town. It's super interesting. Check it out in the links below. And Wreck This Deck kind of reminded me of that person's game, Jerry's Map. And so yeah, check it out in the links below. Number 3 is Forbidden Lands by Free League Publishing. Now I have played Forbidden Lands before, but it was a super short campaign, and it was cut short because one of my characters accidentally summoned a demon and the demon killed everybody. And so I really want to go back to this game. In my previous adventure that I ran, I was using the magic system in Forbidden Lands, and there was a master wizard and 3 apprentices. I think the game might be better set up for some type of exploration. So as soon as I'm inspired to create a fun kind of exploration character story type thing, then I'm going to get back into it because the game looks amazing. It does rely on procedural generation to generate what you find on the map. But the map is pre-made and it includes stickers, which is really, really cool. So I'm excited to include stickers on the map when I finally get this back to the table and play it again. Number 2 is The One Ring by Free League Publishing. So Free League Publishing gets the number 3 and the number 2 spot this year. And this was not on my radar until I started rereading the Lord of the Rings trilogy last year. Basically, I said, hey, I haven't read these books in like 15 years, and I wanted to reread them differently. So I did some research online, and somebody suggested that when you read these books, these Lord of the Rings books by J.R.R. Tolkien, you should have a map next to you, because really, these books, Tolkien takes you on a tour of the world that he created, and the best way to experience that is to enjoy the tour and have the maps open so you can see where the characters are and what's happened in the world on the map. So I did that, and it's been wonderful just to sit down, read a chapter here, read a chapter there. It's been a year and a half now of me rereading these books, so it has been a long process. I'm not burning through them like I would some other novels, but every minute of it has been enjoyable, and I've loved it. And so when I saw The One Ring come out, I was like, oh my gosh, serendipity, this is happening while I'm reading these books, and I really want to play The One Ring. I didn't know that I wanted to play a solo RPG in the world that Tolkien created until this RPG came out. It looks gorgeous. The design looks really, really strong. It looks different than many other designs. Somebody actually suggested it to me in the comments, so thank you, whoever that was. And that is why it's number 2 on my list. It also includes a solo mode called Strider Mode that I believe was designed by Sean Tompkin, who did Iron Sworn and Starforged, which Starforged made this list as well. So there is solo play supported. So all in all, I'm super excited to play this. It does feel like this would also be kind of an epic campaign, but it doesn't need to be. Like, it looks like the game is set up for episodic play as well and kind of smaller quests. So someday I will get into it, hopefully in 2025, but we'll see. And that brings me to the number 1 spot on my list, the number 1 game I am most excited to play in 2025. And this is Call of Cthulhu by Chaosium, but specifically the Alone Against Nyarlathotep by Lee Wade. So Call of Cthulhu has been on my list of games to try for at least 2 years, if not 3 years or more. I've really enjoyed watching Seth Skorkowski's videos on Call of Cthulhu, and it's one of my favorite themes. It's urban fantasy, but it's noir urban fantasy. They kind of like old school Sherlock Holmes, but there's something supernatural going on. I love that theme so much. So I really want to play this game. When I researched playing this game, I always check to see if there are solo adventures or solo play supported, and there is. Chaosium has a series of adventures called the Alone Against series. For example, they have Alone Against the Flames. This is a solo adventure built specifically for solo play, and there are several others in that series where you get to go and play a solo adventure. Not only that, but there are 2 fan-made adventures. The one of them I just said, Alone Against Nyarlathotep by Lee Wade, and I'm very, very excited to try this out. There's another one that is called Heinrich's Call of Cthulhu Guide to Carcosa, and I didn't write down the author, so I apologize, but the link for both of those will be in the description below. Both of those are solo designed, and from what I've read, both of them expand on the Alone Against framework of play to make it way more expansive and way more interactive. A few of the comments and reviews I've seen say that these are wonderfully detailed and rich modules for solo play, and I can't wait to get my hands on these. This is my #1 for 2025. Anytime, especially an indie person takes a stab at developing a solo adventure, there's going to be new ideas, new mechanics, new ways to handle solo interactions, and I am all there for it. I cannot wait to get my hands on these. I'm really hoping I can get this to the table in 2025. And that's it. Those are my top 10 solo RPGs that I want to play in 2025. Now, it's unfortunate because my biggest restriction right now is time, and I don't think I'll get all of these to the table in 2025. And so if I make this video next year, you may see some repeats on this video when compared to, or next year's video when compared to this year's video. However, I have already started playing one of these, and a review may come out at some point in 2025, and I'm excited to play the others. So, those are my top 10 solo RPGs I'm looking to play in 2025. But what are the solo RPGs that you want to play in 2025? Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if there's anything I'm missing, especially if there's a solo exploration-focused game that de-emphasizes combat but has handcrafted design as opposed to procedural generation. That's my grail game. I'm always on the search for it, so let me know if you know of one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.